Welcome. Let's talk about a ritual that you, me, and practically everyone else on the planet participates in.
Usually around 9 a.m. on a Monday morning.
Right, exactly. You walk into the office, or you jump on a video call, or maybe you just grab a coffee with a friend, and the inevitable question arrives.
How was your weekend?
Yes, how was your weekend? It is so common, so entirely woven into the fabric of our social lives that we rarely stop to actually think about what we are doing when we answer it.
We really don't. We just sort of default to the script.
Yeah, we usually just throw out fine, pretty quiet, or we launch into this laundry list of chores we finished. But today, we are going completely under the hood of that interaction.
Which is incredibly exciting because we have a fascinating piece of source material in front of us.
We do. It is a transcript titled The Art of the English Weekend Conversation, and it comes from an educational platform known as the Mr. English Channel, featuring two hosts named Emily and Paul.
Now, on the surface, if you just glance at this, it's a tool for language learners, right? People trying to pick up conversational English.
Right, but beneath that surface, it's a blueprint for how we construct our own realities through the stories we tell about our free time. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Our mission for this deep dive is to deconstruct this seemingly simple back and forth. We want to uncover the hidden psychology, the narrative structures, and the profound social mechanisms embedded in how we talk about our days off.
It's really the perfect starting point. Because the weekend recap is one of the few truly universal modern experiences.
Totally.
Regardless of your industry, your background, or where you live, that Monday morning transition from personal time back to collective productivity.
It requires a bridging conversation.
Exactly. It requires a bridge. But what is truly captivating about this specific text is how Emily and Paul set the stage before they even get to the recap itself.
Oh, the intro, yes.
Right, if we look at the opening of the transcripts, they don't just jump into their itineraries. They establish a very specific sensory environment.
Emily announces that she feels highly energized. She shares that she is sipping her favorite lemon tea.
The window is open.
Yeah, the window is open and she can hear the birds outside. It's this whole aesthetic. And then Paul, on the other hand, immediately contrasts this.
He announces he has a big glass of water.
A big glass of water, and he makes it a point to explicitly state that he is having no coffee this morning. He frames this choice as a small, intentional goal for his health.
What's fascinating here is how these immediate sensory details, the lemon tea, the sound of birds, a glass of water, they function as immediate social equalizers.
Okay, I hear you on the social equalizer idea, but let me push back for a second.
Sure.
Is it really that deep? I mean, sometimes a glass of water is just a glass of water. When you're hosting a show, you have to say something to check the mic and get the ball rolling. Are we sure they aren't just filling dead air before they get to the actual lesson?
That's a fair point. It really is. But in broadcast or educational media, very little is purely accidental, even the small talk.
You think it's highly calculated?
Well, think about the psychology of the audience listening to this. You have language learners who might be incredibly intimidated by the prospect of parsing a native-level conversation.
Right, they're probably already nervous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If Emily and Paul started by debating high-level political theory or, I don't know, detailing a wildly expensive exclusive weekend in Monaco.
They would immediately alienate a huge chunk of their audience.
Yes. By grounding the opening in the mundane, the taste of lemon tea, the feeling of an open window, the universal struggle of trying to drink less coffee, they are signaling safety. They're saying, we inhabit the same physical reality that you do.
That makes a lot of sense. You listening right now, you know exactly what a glass of water tastes like. You know the feeling of a warm cup and a cool breeze. It instantly disarms you.
It creates a shared baseline.
Emily is giving us this aesthetic of comfort, and Paul is giving us the aesthetic of discipline. Striving for that health goal, which is also incredibly relatable. We've all had those mornings where we say, okay, today's the day I skip the caffeine and actually hydrate.
We have all been there. And by doing this, they are establishing trust. In any form of communication, trust is the currency that buys engagement.
I like that. Trust buys engagement.
When you feel relaxed, when you feel like you are just having a cup of tea with friends, your brain is actually far more receptive to absorbing information. Stress narrows our cognitive focus, while relaxation broadens it.
And once that foundation of comfort is laid down, they slide right into the main event, Emily's Saturday.
And what a Saturday it is.
She takes us on this excursion. She tells Paul that she went to a small town near the mountains to find some peace. She went with her sister, Chloe.
But the detail that stands out immediately is the transportation.
Yes. They took an early morning train. Emily specifically highlights how much she loves train rides because you can look out the window and relax. There is a deep romanticization of the train ride happening here.
It's not about the efficiency of getting from point A to point B.
No, not at all. It's about the permission to just sit and watch the world go by.
It taps into a very specific type of modern luxury, the luxury of passive forward momentum.
Passive forward momentum. Explain that a bit more.
Think about how we usually travel. If you are driving a car, your cognitive load is fully maxed out. You have to be hyper-vigilant about the road, the traffic, the GPS directions.
It's stressful. It is active, draining work.
But on a train, you completely surrender control. You hand the responsibility of movement over to an unseen conductor, which allows your mind to completely detach.
Which is exactly what they do. Emily notes that she was reading her book and her sister Chloe was sleeping. It paints a picture of complete serenity. They have intentionally scheduled this time to be inaccessible to the demands of their normal lives.
They are completely unreachable.
Right. They are trapped in a metal tube, but in the best way possible. But then, of course, the text introduces the classic narrative element, the obstacle.
Because no good story is just, we sat there and nothing happened.
Exactly. Suddenly, right in the middle of Emily's reading and Chloe sleeping, the train abruptly stops. And it doesn't stop at a station. It stops dead in the middle of a field.
The tension builds.
Emily admits she was a little worried, assuming there was a mechanical problem. But then, the driver gets on the microphone and makes an announcement that completely flips the script.
I love this part.
He says, "Sorry, everyone, but there are cows on the tracks."
It is a brilliant comedic pivot. You have this massive, complex piece of human engineering
A high-speed train.
brought to a complete and total halt by the most unhurried, immovable force of nature imaginable.
Oh, a herd of cows.
Emily looks out the window and confirms it. There are about 10 big, slow cows just standing there, absolutely refusing to move. Now, this is where the psychology of the weekend recap really gets put to the test.
Oh, absolutely. Because, let's be totally honest, if I am on a train and it stops in the middle of nowhere for an unexplained reason, I am not feeling serene.
You're stressed.
I am checking my watch. I am pulling out my phone to see if I have a signal. I am sweating about missing my lunch reservation. The hot flash of frustration is almost instant.
But how does Emily frame this?
She notes that the driver didn't honk or try to scare them. He just waited. For 15 minutes, they all just sat there. And Emily says she just watched the cows eat grass, noting that they looked very happy.
And Paul responds by calling this a cow party.
A cow party.
That framing is the crux of the entire interaction. Calling a 15-minute transit delay a cow party is a profound demonstration of the power of perspective.
It really is.
Look at the psychology of transit delays. Studies consistently show that commuting unpredictability is one of the highest daily stressors for modern adults.
I believe it.
It triggers our fight-or-flight response because it threatens our illusion of control over our schedules. When that train stops, your brain perceives a threat to your meticulously planned day.
But by refusing to inject frustration into the story, Emily diffuses that tension and replaces it with amusement.
She completely disarms the threat.
But is she actually practicing some high-level mindfulness here, or is this just the luxury of a totally open Saturday? I mean, let's be real. If she had to be at work, she wouldn't be calling it a cow party. She'd be calling it a nightmare.
That's a crucial distinction. The open schedule absolutely provides the buffer for this reaction. But even within that buffer, she makes an active choice.
She could have complained.
She could have complained that her peaceful reading time was interrupted. Instead, she highlights the stark contrast between our hyper-scheduled transit systems and the unbothered pace of the natural world.
The cows do not care about the train schedule.
They really don't. By choosing to observe their happiness rather than obsessing over her own delay, Emily engages in a spontaneous act of reframing. She literally tells Paul it was a very natural start to the day.
It's amazing how the words we choose actually dictate the reality of the memory. You can't control the cows, but you can control your reaction to the cows. By embracing the absurdity of the situation, she turns what could have been a negative complaint into the highlight of the story.
It becomes the memorable event.
Anyway, the cow party eventually ends. The cows slowly wander off the tracks, and Emily and Chloe reach their destination. And the resolution of the Saturday excursion is completely drenched in sensory details.
They arrive in the town.
Yes, and they spend the day walking its very old streets. And the climax of Emily's town visit isn't some grand tourist trap. It is a visit to a tiny old bookstore. And the detail she uses to describe it is just fantastic. She tells Paul that the book smelled like history.
It's a highly evocative description, and it serves a distinct purpose in the narrative. We live in an increasingly digitized world. We read on glass screens, we listen to audio, our interactions are mediated by pixels.
It's all virtual.
But the physical scent of an old book, that specific breakdown of lignin in the paper that gives off that dry, slightly sweet scent, it anchors the experience in tactile reality. It emphasizes permanence.
And look at what she buys in this repository of history. Not a novel, not a fantasy to escape into, but an old book about gardening. She shares her very grounded, tangible goal for the summer. She wants to learn how to grow tomatoes.
Growing tomatoes.
It's such a pure, constructive ambition. It's not about maximizing productivity or achieving a corporate promotion. It's about putting hands in the dirt and creating sustenance.
And speaking of sustenance, they end their Saturday excursion with lunch at a small cafe.
Emily describes it as a simple but perfect meal. Vegetable soup and fresh bread. She literally says it was so simple but so good.
There's a deep appreciation here for the fundamentals.
The whole arc of Emily's Saturday, from the slow train and the happy cows to the smell of old books and the taste of fresh bread, is a complete rejection of the complicated, fast-paced modern world.
Which creates a fascinating juxtaposition when we look at how Paul spent his Saturday morning.
Oh, absolutely. The contrast is sharp.
If Emily's Saturday was about slowing down and surrendering to the natural pace of the world, Paul's Saturday provides a baseline of active exertion.
He starts his weekend with a 5-kilometer run in the local park.
And he doesn't romanticize it. He tells Emily that it was difficult, that it was quite windy.
But he emphasizes that he felt great afterward. He earned his weekend. He pushed through the physical friction of the wind to get that rush of endorphins, that sense of accomplishment that colors the rest of your day. It sets a completely different tone.
It does. But the true heart of Paul's Saturday doesn't happen on the running trail.
No, it happens afterward. When he stumbles upon a garage sale, he meets an older gentleman named Mr. Thompson, who is selling a collection of old tools and garden items. But tucked away in the corner, Paul spots a very dusty, very old guitar.
And this is where the conversation shifts from a simple recap of morning exercise into something deeply sociological.
Okay, sociological how?
Well, a garage sale is a unique environment. It's an intersection where the private domestic sphere spills out onto the public driveway. You are essentially walking through the physical artifacts of someone else's life.
That's a really interesting way to frame a garage sale.
When Paul asks about the guitar, Mr. Thompson doesn't just haggle over a price. He provides the provenance. He reveals that it was his father's guitar. And then Mr. Thompson says this incredibly loaded line, "I want this to go to someone who will love it."
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
Paul is just a guy walking home from a run who sees a dusty instrument. I get that the story is touching, but if I'm at a garage sale, I'm usually just looking for a deal. I'm not necessarily looking to adopt someone's heavy family legacy. Doesn't that put a weird amount of pressure on Paul?
It absolutely puts pressure on him.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why the interaction is so meaningful. If we connect this to the broader picture of how humans relate to objects, this is no longer a financial transaction. It is a transfer of stewardship.
A transfer of stewardship.
Mr. Thompson is acting as the guardian of his family's history. By stating that he wants it to go to someone who will love it, he is screening Paul. He is actively looking for a successor, not a customer. The physical object, the guitar, is merely a vessel for the memories attached to it.
That's a great way to put it, because what happens next proves that Paul accepts that role. They don't just exchange money, they exchange stories.
Paul notes that they talked for a long time.
Mr. Thompson shares stories of his life, specifically the memory of listening to his father play music on that very guitar every single evening. Think about the vulnerability of that moment. Mr. Thompson is standing in his driveway, handing over the acoustic soundtrack of his childhood to a stranger in running clothes.
It's incredibly intimate, and Paul describes it as a very touching moment.
And look at how Paul honors that vulnerability. He buys the guitar, noting that it was very cheap financially, but very special emotionally. And how does he spend the rest of his Saturday afternoon?
He doesn't just toss it in a closet.
No. Or hang it on the wall as a prop. He spends hours cleaning it and fixing the strings. He engages in the physical act of restoration.
This labor, wiping away the dust, tuning the new strings, is a ritual of respect. He is preparing the artifact to generate new memories while holding on to the old ones.
Emily completely gets it, too. She responds to his story by pointing out that the guitar isn't just an object. It has a history.
And Paul enthusiastically agrees. He explicitly states the moral of his Saturday. It made him think about how many stories are around us if we just take the time to talk to people.
He says we are often in such a hurry that we miss the treasures in people.
It is a beautiful lesson, but it's also an indictment of how we usually operate.
We really are in a hurry. We are so focused on our 5K run times, our step counts, our scheduled errands, that we walk right past the Mr. Thompsons of the world.
It's an observation on the epidemic of rushing. We prioritize efficiency over connection. By simply slowing down and asking a question, Paul turned a mundane Saturday walk into a deeply resonant human connection.
And this contrast between rushing and resting, between outward exertion and inward reflection, brings us to the second half of their weekend, Sunday.
Because the way these two hosts spend their Sundays reveals a fascinating dynamic about how we recharge and the universal language of food.
The Sunday contrast is my favorite part of this transcript. Let's look at how Emily transitions from Saturday to Sunday. She admits to Paul that she was very tired from all the walking and the train adventuring.
So what does she do on Sunday?
She completely shuts down the outward momentum. She stays home. She works a little in her garden, probably visualizing those future tomatoes. But the crucial detail here is that she stays in her pajamas until 10 a.m.
And Paul immediately validates this. He agrees that Sunday is the best day for pajamas.
The pajama detail is just perfect.
It's a wonderful cultural signifier. Staying in your pajamas is a universal signal that you are officially off the clock and unavailable to the world. It is the ultimate boundary.
When you declare that you are staying in your sleepwear until mid-morning, you are actively rebelling against the demands of society. You are saying, in this space, I am not required to perform, achieve, or present myself to anyone.
Emily is recovering from the physical and sensory input of her Saturday excursion by cocooning herself in pure, unstructured comfort.
It is the absolute sanctuary of a quiet Sunday morning. But then we look at Paul's Sunday.
And it is the polar opposite of quiet isolation.
Paul heads over to his parents' house for a big family lunch, and the cast of characters he describes paints a very vivid, very loud picture. You have his parents, his brother, and the absolute chaotic wild card of the weekend, his 4-year-old nephew, Leo.
Emily asks about Leo, and Paul's description is universally understood by anyone who has ever spent more than 10 minutes with a toddler.
He says Leo is very fast and very loud, and that 4-year-olds have too much energy.
There's a wealth of psychological observation in that simple description. The energy imbalance between adults and young children dictates the entire tempo of family gatherings.
Paul, who successfully ran a 5-kilometer race against the wind on Saturday, finds himself entirely exhausted on Sunday simply by playing backyard soccer with a 4-year-old.
Children possess a chaotic vitality that acts like a center of gravity. It pulls all the adults into their orbit. Paul admits that he is much older, but Leo is much faster.
Toddler energy is terrifying. You can picture Paul, hands on his knees, gasping for breath while Leo is doing laps around the garden without breaking a sweat.
But this physical exertion leads directly to what Paul declares is the absolute best part of his weekend.
The culinary climax of the entire transcript. His mother made a giant 3-layer chocolate cake.
He makes sure to emphasize the scale of it to Emily. Incredible, giant 3 layers.
Emily immediately admits she's very jealous.
That 3-layered chocolate cake represents so much more than dessert. It represents maternal care, celebration, and the culturally permitted indulgence that we reserve for Sundays.
Paul describes how they sat outside, ate the cake, and talked for hours.
This touches on a fundamental human behavior. Shared meals force a pause. Eating together is one of the oldest mechanisms for building bonds. The physical act of consuming the cake forces everyone to stop the backyard soccer, sit down, and actually look at each other.
And what I love is that the hosts actually realize this themselves in real time.
Yeah.
There is this wonderful meta moment in the conversation where Paul suddenly stops and says, "Wait, I just realized something. We both had food moments this weekend."
Emily had her simple, perfect vegetable soup and fresh bread on Saturday.
And Paul had his decadent 3-layer chocolate cake on Sunday. They explicitly acknowledge that food is a massive anchor for the weekend.
It really is.
If you think about your own memories of the past month, the anchor points are almost always meals. The Friday night takeout, the Saturday brunch, the Sunday dinner.
Exactly. Food acts as the chronological anchor for our memories. Furthermore, it perfectly illustrates the overarching theme of balance that Emily and Paul are subtly mapping out.
The balance between different types of days.
Yes, they discuss how important it is to have this equilibrium in your free time. The ideal architecture of a weekend, as they define it, involves one day for adventure, or exertion,
Like taking a train, navigating a cow party, or running a windy 5K.
and 1 day for rest, family, and food. You exert energy out into the world, and then you draw energy back in through connection and sustenance.
It's the inhale and the exhale of the week. But they don't just dwell in the past. After they exhaust the recap of the previous weekend, the conversation naturally pivots to the next weekend.
Paul makes a very astute observation here.
He tells Emily that it is good to have plans because it makes the week go faster when you have something exciting at the end. That's not just a throwaway comment, is it? There's real psychology behind it.
Well, there is a massive amount of psychology behind it. What Paul is describing is the psychology of anticipation. Neurologically speaking, anticipation is often more powerful than the event itself.
Really? More powerful than the event.
Yes. Think about Robert Sapolsky's famous work on dopamine. Sapolsky found that dopamine isn't just about the reward, it's about the anticipation of the reward. In his studies, dopamine levels in monkeys spiked the moment a signal indicated a reward was coming, long before the reward was actually received.
That is fascinating.
When you are slogging through a difficult Tuesday afternoon at work, the mental image of your Saturday plans acts as a cognitive life raft. The anticipation releases dopamine, which provides you with the forward momentum necessary to get through the work week.
That perfectly explains why Wednesday feels so much better if you already have Friday night dinner plans locked in.
Exactly.
And what is fascinating about this section of the transcript is how different Paul and Emily's upcoming plans are. They represent two very distinct, almost archetypal types of weekend experiences.
Let's look at Paul's plan first.
Paul is embarking on the ultimate functional weekend. He is fulfilling a sacred social role. The strong friend with a big car.
We all know this role.
His friend is moving to a new apartment, and Paul is going to spend his Saturday moving heavy boxes and furniture.
If you own a truck or an SUV, you know that your weekends are never truly your own when lease renewal season comes around.
Emily points out that every friend group needs this person, which highlights the social utility Paul provides. But look at the reward structure he mentions. What is the universal currency for this grueling physical labor?
The promised pizza dinner.
The pizza economy. It is the most universally accepted exchange rate in modern adult friendships.
Precisely. The pizza economy is a brilliant, unwritten social contract. You cannot pay a close friend cash to help you move. Doing so turns a relationship of mutual support into a transactional employment contract, which feels unnatural and awkward.
It feels like you're hiring them.
Right. But you can buy them pizza and beer. The food serves as a token of gratitude that maintains the equality of the friendship. Paul accepts this labor-intensive Saturday because it reinforces his social bonds.
And then, to balance it out, he plans to spend his Sunday staying home to practice a simple song on his newly restored dusty guitar. The labor of Saturday buys the quiet artistry of Sunday.
Now contrast that functional plan with Emily's ascetic plan.
Emily is shifting her environment entirely. Instead of seeking the peace of the rural mountains like she did last week, she's staying in the city to engage with culture.
She plans to attend a new art exhibition at the museum.
Specifically focusing on nature photography. She mentions giant photos of animals and forests from all over the world. So she is still connecting with nature, but through the curated, mediated lens of an artist's camera inside a civic institution.
She's also going with her friend Sarah, which adds a layer of social curation. But the focal point of Emily's plan is what happens after the museum.
They are going to a new Italian restaurant that is rumored to have the absolute best pasta in the city. Paul points out that Emily always finds the best food. And Emily delivers a line that I think sums up her entire worldview. She says, "Life is too short for bad food."
That is a great line.
Put that on a t-shirt. But what does it actually say about how she views her free time?
Life is too short for bad food is a philosophy of intentional living. It is a firm commitment to not wasting the limited free time we have on mediocre experiences. Emily is curating a weekend designed to maximize aesthetic and sensory pleasure.
Striking visual art followed by exceptional culinary craftsmanship.
And Paul completely supports this. He summarizes her plan as art and pasta, calling it a very Emily weekend. This shows how our leisure choices are not just activities, they are expressions of our identity. We use our weekends to perform who we are.
And they both arrive at this beautiful, synthesized conclusion about what makes a weekend valuable. They agree that you don't need to spend a lot of money or travel to exotic mountains to have a good time.
Paul says that even small plans, like reading a book or going for a walk, can make you happy.
And Emily seals the deal by stating, "A good weekend is about how you feel, not just what you do." I think we so often judge our weekends by the itinerary. How many things did we check off the list? How productive were we?
But Emily is arguing for a purely emotional metric.
Did you feel rested? Did you feel inspired? That is the true measure of a successful weekend.
This philosophical conclusion brings us directly to the meta layer of our analysis. We have to remember the overarching context of this source text. It is fundamentally an educational tool.
Emily and Paul are not just having a chat for their own amusement. They have a pedagogical mission.
They explicitly step out of the narrative to discuss why they are having this conversation. They point out to the listener that talking about our days is highly effective for learning. As Emily notes, it uses real-life words for time, places, people, and feelings.
Right, it's the difference between memorizing a sterile list of vocabulary words from a textbook like train, cow, delay, field, and experiencing those words embedded in a hilarious, memorable story about a cow party. Our brains are hardwired for narrative.
Absolutely. Cognitive psychology tells us that we remember stories far better than we remember isolated facts because stories trigger neural coupling. That's where the listener's brain activity actually begins to mirror the speaker's brain activity.
Paul and Emily demonstrate this beautifully by executing a perfect structural recap of their own conversation near the end of the transcript.
They literally pause and say, let's do a quick recap for our friends.
And they systematically ping-pong the key elements back and forth. Chloe in the mountains, the cows on the train, the gardening book,
A 5-kilometer run,
the treasure guitar from the garage sale,
the 3-layer chocolate cake,
moving furniture for pizza.
and finally, nature photography and pasta.
It's like a highlight reel. It happens in less than 30 seconds. But I want to ask you about the human element of this recap, because yes, it helps a language learner remember the vocabulary. But when you and I recap a conversation, it does something else, right?
It does.
When Paul remembers Emily's gardening book and Emily remembers Paul's chocolate cake, what are they actually proving to each other?
They are proving that they paid attention, that validation is the core of human connection. When you accurately reflect someone's story back to them, you are saying, I listened to you. Your experiences matter to me. You are seen.
That validation is exactly why we recap our weekends in the first place. We want to be heard, and we want to know that our lives are witnessed by the people around us.
And that desire to be witnessed drives the final element of the transcript, the call to action.
They don't just sign off. They invite the listener to participate. They ask the audience to comment weekend vibes just to show they are engaged. But more importantly, they pose 3 specific interactive prompts.
What did you do? Who did you spend it with? Family, friends, or a pet? And what is your plan for next weekend?
Asking about a pet is a wonderfully inclusive touch, recognizing that our most meaningful weekend companions aren't always human.
But the most crucial part of this call to action is the encouragement they offer. They tell the listeners to write their answers in English because it is excellent practice, but they explicitly say, don't be shy and don't worry about mistakes. Just try.
I love the sentiment, but let's be realistic. For an adult learner, or honestly just an adult in a new social situation, don't worry about mistakes, is incredibly hard advice to follow.
We are paralyzed by the fear of looking foolish.
If I'm trying to speak a new language, or even just trying to impress a new group of coworkers on Monday morning, I am hyper aware of every single word I choose.
That paralysis is completely normal. But Paul and Emily are radically trying to shift the listener's metric for success. They are emphasizing that communication is about connection, not perfection.
Connection over perfection.
If a language learner uses the wrong verb tense or mixes up their vocabulary, but still manages to convey the joy of eating a 3-layer cake with their chaotic 4-year-old nephew, the communication is a resounding success.
The connection has been made.
The grammatical mistake is entirely secondary to the human exchange.
It's an empowering message. Whether you are actively learning English or just trying to navigate your own social anxieties at that Monday morning meeting, just try, share your story, connect.
It's universally applicable.
So, as we look at this entire transcript from top to bottom, what does this all mean for you, the listener? We took a seemingly simple, everyday language learning dialogue, and what we found was actually a pretty profound blueprint for living a balanced life.
Emily and Paul have mapped it out perfectly.
You balance the exertion of the run with the rest of the pajamas. You embrace the friction of the unexpected cow party with humor instead of frustration. You find the hidden history in old, dusty guitars, and you recognize the absolute, universal joy of a shared 3-layer chocolate cake.
It is a blueprint, and it leaves us with one final, lingering idea to consider. Throughout this text, we have seen how Emily and Paul recount their days. But what if the process goes deeper than just reporting the facts?
What do you mean?
What if the way we narrate our weekend actually determines how we remember it? Consider Daniel Kahneman's concept of the experiencing self versus the remembering self.
The experiencing self lives in the present moment, right?
Yes, but the remembering self writes the story afterward. By consciously choosing to frame a frustrating, unexplained train delay as a humorous cow party, or by choosing to view a grueling day of hauling heavy furniture as a noble opportunity to earn a pizza reward, we aren't just recounting our days.
We are actively authoring our own
The
happiness.
story we choose to tell becomes the reality we carry forward.
You are the writer of your own recap. I think that is incredibly powerful. So the question I want to leave you with today is this. How might you retitle the minor inconveniences of your own weekend to change the story of your life?
That's the real challenge.
The next time you are stuck in traffic, or a plan falls completely apart, or your 4-year-old nephew runs you ragged in the backyard, what is your version of the Tao party? How are you going to frame it when someone asks you on Monday morning?
It's all about the frame.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. It has been an absolute pleasure unpacking this with you. We hope you find your own treasures, enjoy some excellent food, and have an incredibly vibrant weekend ahead.